Let me ask you something. When was the last time a fantasy world made you feel like you weren't supposed to leave it? Not because the fights were insane, not because the power system was clever, but because the world itself felt alive, real, sacred somehow. I've been thinking about that feeling a lot lately, because I don't think most fantasy gives it to us anymore. And then I found Witch Hat Atelier, and I remembered what I had been missing. This is Anicore Otaku, and I need to talk about this. Okay, so here's the thing that's been bothering me. Think about the last 10 years of fantasy anime. What do you actually remember? Stat screens, level ups, protagonists grinding their way to godhood, magic that works like a weapon. Point, shoot, explosion, done. And honestly, a lot of it stopped feeling like fantasy a long time ago. It started feeling like a game someone forgot to put wonder into. And I'm not here to trash those shows. Some of them are genuinely great. But somewhere along the way, fantasy traded mystery for mechanics. And most of us just accepted it. Modern fantasy stopped asking you to dream. It started asking you to calculate. And that specific loss is something I didn't even fully realize had happened until I sat down with Witch Hat Atelier.
So what even is Witch Hat Atelier? It's a manga by Kamome Shirahama. Been running since 2016, won the Eisner Award, the Harvey Award, one of the most beloved manga of the last decade, and it's finally becoming an anime. But here's what I want you to actually understand about it, because saying the art is beautiful doesn't even begin to cover it. The thing that makes Witch Hat Atelier feel completely different is how it treats magic. In this world, magic isn't something you're born with. It isn't summoned, it isn't inherited, it's drawn. With ink, with a pen, with intention. Spells are geometric symbols, carefully designed, personally crafted, handmade. And the spell only works if you understand what you're asking the world to do. Magic here isn't ammunition, it's creativity. Most fantasy makes magic feel like pulling a trigger. Witch Hat Atelier makes magic feel like writing a letter. And that changes everything.
Now, I know some of you are already typing, but what about Freerin? Freerin is great, and magic isn't the point there. And you're completely right. Freerin is genuinely great. Freerin doesn't treat magic like wonder because magic was never the emotional core of that story. Memory is. Regret is. Time is. And Freerin is beautiful for exactly that reason. But here's what I find interesting. The fact that we have to explain in a show about a mage that magic isn't really the point tells you something about where fantasy is right now. Magic has become so mechanical in modern anime, so expected to just be a combat tool, that when something comes along and treats it like something sacred, people don't just notice it, they react like they've been starved of it. And Witch Hat Atelier proved they have been. The story follows Coco, a young girl in a world that has told her whole life, magic is for people who are born with it, not for people like her. Then one night, she secretly watches a witch cast a spell and realizes, wait, what if everything I've been told is wrong? What if magic isn't a birthright, but something anyone with curiosity and a pen can learn? That realization doesn't feel triumphant. It feels dangerous. Because in trying to recreate the spell herself, Coco accidentally changes her life in a way she can never undo. And that is how she ends up in the atelier of Kifre, a mysterious, gentle witch who takes her in as his apprentice. Alongside Agate, sharp and guarded. Tetia, warm and bright. Riche, quiet and watching. And slowly, through small moments and shared meals and little acts of kindness, these characters become people you genuinely care about. But don't let the storybook warmth fool you. There's real darkness here. A world divided over who magic belongs to. A governing body that decides who gets access to knowledge. And a mentor with reasons for taking Coco in that run much deeper than kindness. This series starts cozy and earns every bit of weight it builds toward.
But here's what I keep coming back to. Why did this series hit so many people so hard? I don't think it's just the art. I don't think it's just the magic system or the story. I think people are exhausted. Not just with anime, with everything. Every app screaming for your attention. Every story engineered to be consumed as fast as possible. Every fantasy world that feels like it was built by an algorithm instead of a person who loved something. We are living in a media landscape that never stops moving. And somewhere in all of that speed, something got lost. The ability to feel small inside a giant world. The ability to slow down and actually wonder. Coco doesn't react to magic like a protagonist in a power fantasy. She reacts like a child watching the world crack open for the very first time. She cries. She fears. She gets overwhelmed by things that should overwhelm her. And that emotional honesty, that willingness to let a character actually feel things instead of just being cool, is something modern fantasy almost never gives us. Because when Coco feels wonder, you feel it too. Someone online described it this way, that even reading their all-time favorite manga for the first time, none of them made them feel genuine wonder the way Witch Hat Atelier did. That's not about story. That's about feeling.
And look, this isn't happening in a vacuum either. Frieren blew up. Dungeon Meshi blew up. And now, Witch Hat Atelier, a slow, handcrafted, gorgeously quiet fantasy, is about to blow up too. None of those are power fantasies. None of them are about getting stronger. All of them are massive. That is not a coincidence. People don't just want stronger worlds anymore. They want warmer ones. And Witch Hat Atelier, with its ink-drawn spells and its storybook pages and its characters who are allowed to feel deeply, arrived at exactly the moment people needed it. And then there's the art, which I genuinely don't have enough words for. Kamome Shirahama draws with Art Nouveau and Art Deco influence, flowing line work, geometric patterns woven through plant life and clothing and architecture. Pages feel less like manga panels and more like illustrations from a book that was never supposed to exist. Characters spill past their panel borders. Spell circles unfurl like illuminated manuscripts. Backgrounds reward the reader who actually slows down to look. You cannot consume this manga. You can only experience it. In a world where everything is optimized for speed, Witch Hat Atelier refuses to be rushed. And the people who meet it on its own terms, they don't leave. So here's where I land. Witch Hat Atelier doesn't feel like modern fantasy. It feels like the kind of story people thought anime had forgotten how to make. A world that feels lived in. Magic that feels sacred. Characters who are allowed to be vulnerable. A magic system that isn't about power, but about the act of creating, of drawing something into existence with your own hands. And I think that's why so many people felt it so immediately. Why the discussions are full of readers saying this is the series they didn't know they were waiting for. Because underneath all of it, Witch Hat Atelier gives back something modern fantasy quietly took away. The feeling that magic is real, and that it belongs to anyone willing to pick up a pen.
You just watched Anicore Otaku, where we go deeper than the headlines, so you never miss what actually matters in the anime world. If this hit something for you, drop a comment. Tell me, when was the last time a fantasy world made you feel something you couldn't quite explain? I genuinely want to know. Hit subscribe
turn on notifications, because the next one is already being written, and you are going to want to be here for it.